Hi guys! So James tagged me with the things that I don't do tag, which I believe started in the vegan community, but obviously for me, the only option was to turn it into a planner tag. So this is going to be the planner things that I don't do tag. So there are quite a few things that I don't do. The first thing that I don't do with planners is plan my week in one sitting. So I think that this is quite a common way to plan, at least from the impression that I've got from YouTube. A lot of people seem to plan their week on like Sundays or Mondays or something like that. It's not that I'm against it, it's just that somehow the system that I've evolved over the years doesn't fit in with that way of planning, and I'm not quite sure how to change it. So usually what I do is, say for example in my work planner, is I'll write things in as soon as I find out about them. So like for example, I gave a talk yesterday. I just wrote that in as soon as it got confirmed. And then there are a few things here in the future that, like, these things are coming up in March. I've just written them in because I know that they're happening. And then I'll kind of put in more detail as it becomes known to me. So this was last week, and I put these things on the side as soon as I knew that I had to do them. These are things that you just have to get done sometime during the week. So I might even have put them in the week before, just to remind myself that I decided that this week I wanted to do them. Then this was like kind of my main work schedule for, you know, like kind of what I had to do during the week. And I sort of mapped it out, I think as soon as I'd finished the previous work schedule. So it might have been Saturday night or Sunday that I did this. So this week obviously starts on Monday. But then the rest of it, I just did like kind of the more detailed breakdown. I did either the night before or on the morning of the day. And the same thing goes like for, this is the current week. So all of these things got added kind of on an ad hoc basis, just whenever they occurred to me or whenever I find out that they're going to happen, you know, depending on whether there are events or tasks. In my personal planner, it works in a similar way. So these are all things that are happening in the future that I know are happening, and I just put them in as they come up. So I don't have a dedicated time where I where I slot things in. Maybe part of it is because I don't really decorate these. I just write and then, you know, kind of use highlighters for color. So there isn't really an advantage to doing it all at once. And then as tasks come up, I just write them down again on a kind of rolling basis. The same thing goes for this home planner. We just write things in. Well, I put things on stickers as they come up, and then I go back afterwards and decorate when it's finished, because otherwise it would be kind of hard to see what I have to do. So that's it. No set planning day. It's just kind of ongoing planning all the time. The next thing that I don't do is I don't decorate with themes, as you've probably already guessed from seeing these planners. The only planner that I actually properly decorate is this one, and this one uses my so-called cartoon hoedown style, which is just like a whole big mess of stickers, and I really don't plan at all. It's just like kind of organic. I just put down stickers wherever they seem to fit in terms of space, and I try not to have too many of the same color stickers in the same place so that you get this kind of nice chaotic rainbow effect. But other than that, there's really no planning. I don't do anything like coordinating washi tape or sticker sets or, you know, coordinating or themed stickers or anything like that. Again, it's not because I have anything against that. I'm really in awe of the people that I see on YouTube who do these amazing layouts, but it's just not something that I kind of, I don't know, I just it doesn't it's not something that I can do. Not that I would rule out ever being able to do it, but at the moment it doesn't kind of work for me, so I don't do it. Another thing that I generally don't do is I don't really color code. So my work planner, as you can see, is pretty monochrome. The reason that there are different colors here is that this was the pen that I was using before. It was the purple friction. And then I decided to switch to a mechanical pencil because I'm kind of trying to give up plastic. And I was very, very saddened when I realized that obviously friction refills are plastic. So I thought I'll kind of gradually switch over. I've got a ton of friction pens and like 5 tons of refills. So it's probably going to take a while before I finish them. But in the meantime, I thought I'll start using this mechanical pencil so I get into the habit of it. And I'm actually really enjoying it. And because I don't color code it, it doesn't really matter. So if you see different colors, that's just because some of it is friction pen and some of it is the pencil, which is newer. You can see here these dots, which I use to mark appointments. They might give you the impression that I color code, but actually it is misleading because these colors are completely random. So they come on this sticker sheet that has all different colors, and I just use the smaller ones for appointments or meetings that I think will not last more than an hour, and the big ones for ones that last more than an hour. And I don't, I use the colors randomly. I don't even try to coordinate or anything. At the beginning, when I first got these stickers nearly a year ago, I thought it would be really cool to color code. So I was trying to use like like blue for teaching and orange for meetings and so on. But it was just too complicated and I couldn't handle it, so I gave up. Similarly, in my personal planner, it looks like I color code, but actually I don't. I just use this to use the highlighters to cross off completed tasks, and I do it in a rainbow pattern. So I start with red and I go to purple and then I start over again, and that's all I do. So this is nothing to do with like types of tasks or anything like that. There is no meaning to it. The only exception to the not color coding is on my monthly spread in the weeks where I do color code, and that's just so that I can kind of see at a glance what's been going on, because I use this more for tracking. So I use this for videos. The videos are red. Stuff that I've bought is purple. Water intake is yellow. Sorry, water intake is orange and exercise is yellow. And that's pretty much it. And I quite like that, but I'm not even really sure that it's necessary. It's just that I thought since this is more things that I would possibly look back on, it would be useful to be able to see at a glance. And then the only other exception is in the Happy Planner, which we use for meal planning, and we do color code here. So we have this 4-color friction pen, and I mentioned this, I think, when I talked about the setup of this before. We use the different colors for like different types of food. So like green is fruit and vegetables, blue is starches, black is like kind of stuff that comes in tins but isn't terrible, which we're actually kind of phasing out because we're giving up tins, like tin soup and stuff like that. And then red is like really bad things, which is it's pretty much James, because James is quite the junk food vegan. But that he's been phasing out that kind of stuff as well. And the color coding helps for that because you can see it a week, like what's red in the week. So you can see at a glance. So I do a bit of color coding, but I would say generally I don't really color code. I'm not that much of a color coder. The next thing that I don't do memory planning or journaling. So I'm like all about the planning. It's kind of like, if it's happening in the future, I want to know about it. But if it's already happened, then I don't care. Which is not to say that I think there's anything wrong with that. Again, like I'm always really impressed by people who, like journal and do art journaling and memory planning. But I just, somehow my brain is just like, if it's already happened, it doesn't matter. The only exception to that is my gratitude journal, which I'll show in more depth in another video. And this is, I guess, kind of a hybrid, because I write down a combination of things that I want to happen, so it's like a vision book, and then also things that I'm happy about. And I do actually look back on it, so in a way it does kind of function as a journal, because indirectly when I like page through it and I see what was happening, like 6 months ago or something, I'm like, oh yeah, that happened. And I've only written it down kind of incidentally because it's something that I was happy about, not because I specifically wanted to remember it, but it does kind of then help spark memories. So that's really the only exception. But other than that, I don't journal. I think maybe it's because I spend a lot of time in my job writing. So, like I write articles and books, and usually I'm just so sick of writing, and I find it kind of stressful because I associate it with work and deadlines and things that I have to do. So just the idea of writing more for fun doesn't appeal to me. The next thing that I don't do in my planners is I don't track finances. And this is probably quite bad, but it's just something that I'm just not good at, and it just doesn't appeal to me, and I've never done it. I kind of feel like I should do it, but I don't. The only thing that I write down is in my weeks. I write down when my payday is, and then I write down how much I want to put into my savings account, and that's the extent of it. The only other thing that I do, which is quite a recent development, is in the Happy Planner, which is our meal tracker. I've started writing down how much we spend on food every week, and that's really just kind of a product of the fact that we're trying to go zero waste and sort of like stop shopping at supermarkets, not because we're boycotting supermarkets, but because it's hard to get things that are unpackaged, and we're trying to avoid packages. So we started going to like places where you can buy things in bulk, and because that's quite different than what we were doing before, we didn't really know how much it costs. So we thought, like, for the first few weeks we'd try to see if it's more or less, and kind of get an idea of how much we're spending on groceries. So I quite like doing that. I actually find it kind of satisfying, but it's never something that I did before. So it's a new development, and really the only type of finance tracking that I do. Another thing that I don't do is plan work and personal stuff together. So as you know, I have a work planner and I have a personal planner. And the reason for this is that I think I've somehow in my brain, I've always separated like study from hobby stuff, or like work from personal. And even before I had two different planners, I would in my head, like, work was separate from personal things. And for example, like, I always kept my work books, my books that are related to work, so like my books about like Hebrew and Yiddish and the languages that I research, I would always keep on a different bookshelf from my like fun books. And so when I got into planning and discovered the concept of multiple planners, it just seemed obvious to separate work and personal, because that was somehow the way that my brain already worked anyway, and it felt like a very natural division. And it was actually quite a relief when I moved all of my personal stuff out of what had been my only planner into my personal planner, because then I had a space to put things like YouTube videos and like grocery shopping and cinema and anything that wasn't work related, which had always bothered me, having them all together. So that is kind of like a weird idiosyncrasy, although I think that it's something that a lot of us planner addicts share, is kind of the desire to keep a division between different parts of your life. So yeah, that is definitely something that I don't do, is keep work and personal things together. Another thing that I don't do, and I don't know why I feel so strongly about this, but for some reason I don't use a planner as a wallet. So I think it's quite common to use like a personal sized or a pocket sized planner as a wallet. And for some reason, this is just something I've never been able to do. And I've actually tried it a couple of times. When I had a pocket sized Filofax, I thought, inspired by YouTube videos of people using their pocket Filofaxes as wallets, I was like, great, this is my opportunity. I can use it as a wallet. I can get rid of my wallet. And I tried it and it just didn't work. First of all, like, there wasn't anywhere to put coins, so I had to put like coins in another pocket in my bag, and that kind of annoyed me. And then I have a whole bunch of library cards, because academics just acquire library cards. So I have like 7 library cards, and I couldn't fit them all in the Filofax, and so I had like a separate sort of like just card wallet for the cards, and it didn't work. I ended up just going back to my wallet and keeping my planner as a planner. Then when I got the weeks cover, which is actually designed as a travel wallet, I was like, wow, it has all these card slots and it has all of this pocket space that I'm not using. Let me try again. So I emptied out my wallet, put all of the cards in the wallet in the weeks cover, and then again was like, okay, I can put my cash in here, but then what about the coins? And in the UK, the lowest like paper denomination for paper money is £5. So that's actually quite high. Anything below that will be a coin. So they're like £1 coins. So you might end up with like, 10 or £15 even worth of coins, which is quite a lot. And you need somewhere to put them. And then I again didn't have space for all of my different cards, and it just got really fat and bulky and I hated it. So I just vowed that I would never use a planner as a wallet. For some reason that in my head, the two things do not go together at all. And I just have a separate wallet and that works really well. So that's another thing that I don't do. Then another planner thing that I don't do is I don't generally switch out of a planner and then later switch back in. So I think that this is something that can be quite common, particularly with undated planners, is like, you might use a planner for a while and then you get sick of it and you want to try something else. And then later you might think, oh, I'll go back to that and switch back into it. I've almost never done that. I think the only exception to that was my Moleskine vertical week on 2 pages that I was using last year, and I started the year in it, and then I switched out of it in favor of the Hobonichi, and then later in the year I went back to it but used it for something different. So I was using it as a gratitude journal for a while, and then for a brief spell I used it as a fitness tracker, and then I used it as a gratitude journal again towards the end of the year. But that was like the only time that I've ever done that. Usually if I switch out of a planner, it's because I just don't like it anymore. Like for some reason, I've realized that there's something about it that doesn't work for me. And generally I don't go back to it then. Again, this is not like a policy based on any kind of ideological commitment. It just seems to be something that's happened. I like the idea of like kind of switching out of a planner and then going back to it later. But I think because I don't use undated planners. This is another planner thing that I don't do. I don't like, and I think a lot of people can relate to this, I don't like the idea of having a planner that like is kind of partially used and then has a whole bunch of blank space and then is used again later, if you know what I mean. Like that just irks me, having all of the blank pages, and it would kind of mock me that like I didn't use it for that time. And I think that's why undated planners are so popular among planner addicts, because you can just jump back in and not have any wasted pages. But because I can't deal with undated planners, it's like if I decide I don't want to use something anymore, it's like, that's it. Sometimes I keep them just in case I find another use for one, so that I don't, like have to waste it. So I have like a spare planner on hand, but generally I don't go back to them. Another thing that I don't do is I don't use multiple planners for the same type of information. So this is a really interesting phenomenon, I think, in the planner community, is the concept of using more than one planner to store the same data. So like, for example, I've seen people who have an A5 planner that's like their desk planner that stays at home, and then an A6 or a personal size that they'll take out with them on the go. And I really like the idea of this because it's kind of like appealing to have your sort of detailed planner that's got all of your stuff in it when you really, want to be able to kind of do in-depth planning. And then you just have your small on-the-go planner that you can take out with you. And I racked my brains trying to think of a way to get this to work for me, and I just haven't been able to. I think because I've got this work-personal division, so I really like the idea of just going out, taking the weeks. But the weeks doesn't work for me as a work planner because it's too small, and I like to have the timeline. And because of my job, like being a lecturer, it's kind of like half based at home and half based at the university. So like a lot of times I'm at home, and like in the summer I'm working from home most of the time. So it would work to have this as a stay-at-home planner and then just take this one out. But this doesn't have any of the work information in it, because I use this, like notes, and there's like all kinds of stuff in here. So if I have to go somewhere that's work related, I have to take this with me. And because this doesn't have personal stuff in it, I have to take this one as well. So I really like the idea of that, but it's not something that I've been able to find a way to get to work in my system. So that's something else that I don't do. Then another thing that I don't do is I don't pre-plan with sticky notes. And I think that part of this is maybe because I don't decorate, so I just write the plans in straight away, and there's no need for sticky notes. And because I use either an erasable pen or a pencil, it doesn't matter if plans change. This is, I think, one reason why I always have to have some kind of erasable writing medium, because I can't stand the idea of writing something in pen and then having it change, or even making a mistake and not being able to change it. So that's like just not even an issue. I don't have a need for it, I guess, or maybe there are other ways of using sticky notes for pre-planning that I haven't even considered and would be useful, but I don't use them. I only use sticky notes really for like kind of as a dashboard in my personal planner for things that I really, really, really feel like I'm in danger of forgetting that I have to get when I'm out. So like, for example, if I had to get printer paper or envelopes or anything like that, I write it in here. There's nothing there at the moment because I've started erasing them as soon as I get the thing so that I can reuse this, because I'm trying to like kind of make these last as long as I can. So that's the only thing that I use sticky notes for. Oh, and the only other thing that I use sticky notes for is covering personal information when I'm doing a video sometimes. But other than that, like I really kind of feel like I underuse sticky notes because I see a lot of people that use them all the time for pre-planning and all kinds of different things, and I just don't. So I just kind of don't know how to use them like that, I guess. And then finally, there are a couple of things that I don't do that I think you already know about if you've seen my other videos, so I'll just mention them briefly. One is I don't use ring planners as planners. I did for a while, and I decided that I didn't get along with the rings, and so now I just use ring binders as reference binders for storing information that can be consulted but that I don't actually have to write in. And the other things that I don't do, which I mentioned briefly, I don't make my own layouts, date my own pages, or print my own planner sheets. And these are all things that, again, I really admire people who can do them, but it's just beyond me. I just can't do it. The only exception to that, as I've mentioned before, is my traveler's notebook that has grid pages that I've made my own layouts for, but that's because I only use it very, very occasionally, and so I don't have to. It's breaks all the rules. It's undated and it's my own layout. I didn't have to print it myself though. It was a Midori gridded paper insert. It's this one that I've showed you before. So this is what James and I use if we're going to have an argument. We have to write like nice things about each other in here. And fortunately, I'm happy to say that it has a kind of deterrent effect, so we actually don't really have to use it that often. And so if we do have to write in it, I just put the date on at the time and use it for that week. But this is like the limit, and that was of my ability to make my own diary layouts. So that's it. That is my planner things that I don't do tag. And now I tag anyone watching this video who would like to make a planner things I don't do video. So I am looking forward to seeing some videos about planner things that you don't do. I hope that you enjoyed this, and I'll be back again soon for another video.